From the NewsChannel 5 network, this is Inside Politics, sponsored by United Health Group.
Hello, everyone. I'm NewsChannel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. The American Civil War ended more than 150 years ago, yet it continues even until this week to be debated, in some cases almost refought across the country. President Donald Trump's remarks this week regarding Andrew Jackson and the Civil War, as well as the controversy spiked in a couple of major southern cities, such as New Orleans and Richmond, as they began taking down some longtime statues to Confederate leaders of the lost cause. The Tennessee General Assembly has had its own controversy about the Civil War in recent days. Smyrna Representative Mike Sparks is at the center of it all. He's our guest on Inside Politics. Representative Sparks, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for the invite.
This all began when you tried to pass in committee a resolution honoring Samson Keeble, who's the first African-American lawmaker to serve in the Tennessee General Assembly, as well as honor Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest. Now, what made you pair those two together in the same resolution?
Great question. That's one reason I was glad to come on here. Pat, where I see our culture going is I'm a little concerned where people aren't telling the truth about history. And I'm a big history buff, like many of us, and I'm sure yourself included. And I'm reminded about what Edmund Burke once stated. He said, those that don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. And where I'm seeing things, it really concerns me. I'm seeing folks tear down monuments, talking about digging up dead bodies. That really worries me. Samson Keeble was from my community, the old Jefferson community. And it's an extraordinary story. Old Jefferson was once a city right outside of Smyrna, and when the Corps of Engineers came along, they had to displace everyone. Everyone had to move. The Corps of Engineers took the property over. Well, how I knew about Samson Keeble was happened to be over at the battlefield, Stones River Battlefield, at the new
why
entrance.
In the same resolution?
Well, because
we know about Nathan
great
Bedford
question.
Forrest.
Well, Samson Keeble, both of them, what I said, honoring Tennessee's rich history, which included Samson and included Forrest and Forrest's redemptive story. Forrest, and this is what really amazed me when I started reading about Forrest. I've never really studied Forrest. I was born and raised in Smyrna, and I never had really studied. I just heard about it when I was a county commissioner.
He probably captured the city hall down there a couple times during the Civil War.
Yes, he did, and that's what amazed me about it. But when I started reading about him over the protest at MTSU and that controversy, I just started reading up on him, and I run across a story where he advocated for African Americans, and he had 3,000 African Americans attend his funeral. I stepped back and I thought, well, what's happening here? I said, how come this isn't mentioned? And then I started thinking, how come Samson Keeble's not mentioned? And then when I spoke at MTSU to all the students, not one student knew who Samson Keeble was. None of them knew.
Now, this first resolution you brought up was defeated in committee. You brought a second resolution through the House.
No, the first one made it through House subcommittee. But
it did not make it to the House floor. A second resolution did make it to the House floor. In fact, it was pairing Forrest this time with Pastor Shane Kessler of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Do you have a relationship with this particular pastor?
No,
why pair those two together?
Well, I think when I read his story of redemption, when I read Forrest's story of redemption, where he started advocating for African Americans, I thought it was extraordinary. Now, a lot of folks don't like to discuss a lot of these issues because it gets very controversial, as you see. And this story shouldn't be controversial because it's the truth of history. It shouldn't be controversial, but I'm reminded of what was it George Orwell, 1984, and it seems like we've kind of come to this course today. And I think journalists like yourself, Pat, should be concerned, because all I did with this resolution, and here's the resolution, this resolution simply honors a pastor, and here it is right here. If you could read, just read what that says.
Materials and recognitions for Shane E. Kessler. This is me giving when he was on that committee. Okay.
Yes.
But it doesn't mention Nathan Bedford Forrest.
Don't mention Forrest. Yes,
but
sir.
It's in there, and that's what angered so many members of the Black Caucus. They didn't realize that was part of the resolution. And you've been a lawmaker for a long time. You voted for many, many resolutions up there.
Yes.
And yes, you're supposed to read all the legislation on your own, but people do not read the stuff that's on the consent committee. So you could understand why some people might feel like a fast one got pulled on them?
No, it's not a fast one though. I mean, I have 25.
What they might feel like it was.
Yes, sir. But I've got 25 co-sponsors on this bill. So I walked around.
Are any of them members of the Black Caucus?
No, I didn't have any members of the Black Caucus sign it. I just had folks sign it that I thought would be interested. But here's a consent counter just to show you. I mean, if we went through here and debated all 27 today.
That's why it's put on the consent counter.
Yes, sir.
But did you let any members of the Black Caucus who were upset about your first resolution know that a lot of the same language about forest was in the second one?
Yeah, I had G.A. Hardaway on the radio with me back home, talking about Samson Keeble and talking about forest. Folks who go to WGNSradio.com and listen to the interaction. So when folks act like I hoodwinked somebody, I mean, it's very disappointing, especially the things I've been talking about the past. I mean, I've talked about this on the floor openly, and I'm concerned where I see statues and monuments being destroyed. I'm afraid it's going to come up here to Tennessee. And we just talked off air about Sam Davis home. There's a Sam Davis monument. Is that going to be next? I dare say in 2 to 5 years, the path that we're on, it's going to happen. And that's my community. Both these figures, especially Samson Keeble, he was from my area. It's not taught in Black History Month. It's not taught in Tennessee history, because I've taken Tennessee history. I didn't know about it in school. And I was born in Smyrna. This guy was born just 2 miles from where I was born. There is some strange irony with Keeble.
But in terms of Samson Keeble, you didn't bring. Are you bringing a separate resolution back for him?
Well, I am next year. Yes, I did.
Year?
I met with the Black Caucus. On these 2 resolutions, and I separated Samson from Forrest out of respect for them, and I run it on Samson. And this is the irony. This is what I want your viewers to know. They turned down Samson Keeble. Why would they turn down Samson Keeble?
Well, they're in the same bill.
No, it's separate. No, it's separate. Totally separate. It was a new bill, which is an amendment that rewrote that whole bill. It's just honoring Samson Keeble. Why would somebody be afraid of Samson Keeble?
Let's take a break. We're talking to Representative Mike Sparks of the Smyrna area about a controversy going on up on Capitol Hill about the Civil War. I'd like to continue our conversation after this break.